All right, so this is the heat check, and what we're going to do, we have 5 names that are popular right now. We're going to go over all 5 names and see if there's any real substance to why they're popular. Look at them from understand the hype if there is hype, and understand from a technical point of view if there is any opportunity there. So the first name on that list is Oscar Health. Oscar Health, in full transparency, is a name that I'm personally long in, right around this 1420 area. So right now I'm down on my position. But the way that I've personally established my long here is basically risking the 50 MA here from a technical basis, looking at this 1387 area to hold. So basically where we are today on the daily chart, with a decent risk to reward to the upside here. MACD curling, decent volume. Pretty popular name that we're seeing. So this is a full stack healthcare company, or healthcare and technology company that includes insurance as well. So a lot of things going on here, specifically with Oscar. Looking at the daily and the weekly, you can see it's kind of been somewhat of a bear, and you see that I've charted this out already because it's something that I personally have an interest in. Whereas the other names may or may not have any charting with them because it's not a name I've been long. But looking at this name, it is a name where I do see the opportunity, especially with how the volume's reacting at this level, that it could be a decent long with a managed risk. Meaning the managed risk is, at least in this case, I'm risking or considering the 50 MA here on the daily to see if that area holds. But realistically, it's more than likely going to trap between 14 and between 1584 for a little bit of time. Now, if that 1584 breaks, which lines up with one of my LOIs and the 200 MA, it could get back up to this 18 and farther areas pretty quick. Notice how you're seeing a big block of volume here come through, especially off of earnings. They had a big pop in volume, and then since then, your VMA has been aggressively higher. So this name does obviously have the hype behind it, which is great for the heat check. It's those kinds of companies that we want to take a peek at. But I think from a managed risk to reward standpoint, this could be a decent name to hold specifically shares in. If you do consider contracts, maybe consider some time, because there is a strong chance of this chopping around here. I think this is the kind of name where a lot of people are going to get chewed up on weekly options specifically, where unless you're day trading, you're getting in and out very quickly, you're more than likely going to get chewed up on a name like this just because of where it's sitting on the chart. Let's just check real quick. Let me zoom over to social media, and we'll read a post or two, or I'll read it out loud because I know you guys can't see on the screen. I'll read it out loud and see if there's something that may have been said. I'm filtering by top comments so we can see if there's something to analyze there. Oscar Health sitting in over $3 billion of cash and generating income. Someone says this company will hit $18. I don't disagree personally. Other people talking about how it's going to have a bigger breakout than Hims and Palantir. I'm just highlighting the hype right now so you understand what people are saying. Oscar has a shareholder meeting tomorrow. A lot of people trying to pump this name up. I think you want to be very realistic with Oscar specifically, and understand, I believe it's a $3 billion market cap. What are we at? $3 billion market cap. So decent sized company. But it can have a decent move on that. When and if you see that move, I think the smart thing to do specifically would be to scale out in a position, especially if you're breaking over this 1584 area. So that would be Oscar and my personal thoughts on that. I would lean more bullish than bearish. I think manage risk to reward here, you're probably going to do just fine. With Oscar, I'd lean more equity than options. Next one is Bull. So if you don't know, Bull is Webull, the charting platform you're seeing here, the brokerage platform. And actually, this was a name I did have a long in that I closed out for a small profit pre-earnings or pre or after earnings. And their earnings were actually not that bad, but it is getting beat up right now, pretty bad. The chart's a mess mainly because of it went from whatever it was, $9 to $76 because hype. And I think a lot of people are getting suckered in with Webull, specifically thinking it's the next Robinhood. They're not the same company at all. Just because it's a brokerage that is very popular retail does not mean it's the same company. Now, what I will say is what I think we're going to see with Webull specifically is very reminiscent of Snapchat. And let me explain why. So Snapchat, if we go all the way back in time when they IPO'd, this is the monthly chart, but IPO'd around $29-ish, and then it sold off, this is the monthly chart, mind you, sold off aggressively to like $4, right? Again, completely different company. I'm just saying what I think is going to happen chart-wise. I think Webull is going to get hammered down in price till it's like in the dirt, and it's going to do one of these. Another name that comes to mind for a similar name, especially if you trade Chinese stocks or you have an interest in Chinese stocks, NIO did a similar thing where NIO was IPO'd at like $5-6, whatever this is. Got a little hype off it being a an EV car, and went all the way down to $1.19 all-time lows and fired all the way up to $67. I think Bull is going to be one of those names, and I think if you're one of the people who are more cautious on Bull, you might be able to pick up a very cheap position for low risk. But this is not a name I would chase. I wouldn't chase the hype at all. I do think they have a decent business. I do think they have a decent business model. I do think they will bring in a lot more profit. I don't think the evaluation at this price is good. You're at a $4 billion, $5 billion evaluation. I see this company, and I'm not going to short it necessarily, but I see this company being closer to a $1 billion evaluation, which at that point it could be undervalued. Again, not looking at growth prospects, but looking at like their overall company. That would kind of undervalue it in my opinion, but that's would be where I'd want to consider a stab. And at that price, we're talking $2 or $3 a share. Now, to be fair, I don't think this company is going to go out of business. I think long term they're going to be just fine. I just think you'll be able to get a much cheaper position specifically on Webull. The next stock on the list is ODD, Oddity Tech. So full transparency, never heard of this company until today. It's my first hearing of it. Basically, it's an Israeli-based company that is within the beauty and wellness sector on a molecular level. So long story short, after reading this overview here, it basically mixes algorithms and machine learning in with makeup or beauty and wellness, which is a very interesting area to operate in. Now, looking at and something that piques my interest, if you don't know, markups on makeup are insanely high and the margins on them are fantastic. So a company like this does pique my interest, but it is something I'd want to take a deeper dive in. Let me go and do our little social analyzation real quick and see what people are saying on social media real quick to highlight some of the hype before we get into the stock. Now, looking at what we're seeing here from top, I guess you should say toply rated results on X. People calling it a beast, blah, blah, blah. Nothing too, I'm looking for more of like the fundamentally and the things that people are hyped over. I'm seeing a lot of charts. People saying it's a short squeeze, new all-time high, new all-time high. All right, we're just seeing charts. I want to see something of substance here. People are short it. Okay, not seeing too much in terms of rationality outside of what I've already said. I just see a lot of people who are trading it and think it's fun and looking at it from a technical perspective. Oh, here we go. The alleged AI makeup company, which once again just hit an all-time high. Last time the stock was this high. The founder dumped 5.5 million shares. Interesting. Okay. So nothing really in terms of news. So that doesn't really help me with understanding the backbone of this business. So before investing in this company, especially with, let's see how much of a markup this is from earnings. Roughly 77% markup. I'm not saying this isn't justified, but you are chasing here quite a bit. Now it's showing clear strength, right? Rally, even on that, even on this gap down here, continued rally and made a new all-time high. So people are definitely interested in this company. Before I could say if the hype is justified or not, I would say that this one would require a deeper dive simply due to the fact that simply due to the sector in which it operates. So it's operating in AI, it's operating in makeup. I love the idea of getting exposure in some of these makeup companies or makeup adjacent companies, mainly due to the fact, again, that our margins are so high. So these companies tend to be very liquid. But with AI, it could also just be a pump in terms of it being a gimmick, right? But it could also be very valid. The other thing you want to worry about is cost. So not necessarily the cost of the makeup or the cost of what they're providing the customer, but the cost to the company to run whatever this AI machine learning stuff is. We don't know, or at least I don't know at this point, the cost of what that is at this point. So this one, before I could say either which way, if I'd feel bullish or bearish on it, I like the idea of the company quite a bit, but it would require a deeper dive. Now, looking at this from a technical basis, it did just hit an all-time high. I could see why it would be on the heat check, mainly due to it being hyped, and clearly this is your hype here. I personally have a very hard time, and if you're part of our community exclusive trading, you'll know I have a very hard time chasing stocks at all-time highs because it's hard for me to justify a risk to reward. I prefer, as you know, I have raccoon trades and dumpster diving. I prefer finding those beatdown stocks that I already know their value and I have an idea of where price action and volume are already sitting, where I can get a fair evaluation or an idea that it is oversold and I can get long and take a logical stab on a trade. With this name sitting at all-time highs on high volume, granted the volume's been tapering off a little bit in the last 3 weeks. It wouldn't shock me to see a revision back down to at least the 65-ish area, especially if volume continues to drop here. But if we see volume pick up, I mean, this thing could keep pushing. Right now, it is a $4 billion company, so it's got plenty of room to still grow here as a company. This one would definitely require a deeper dive. I don't hate it, and I don't want to say I'd be necessarily bearish or bullish on this name. I would lean more bearish from a technical perspective, just because I personally have a hard time trading stocks that are marked up insanely well, and knowing that this was a hype stock and obviously people are talking about it and are excited about it. If you're not long from down this like 45 area, if you're not already long, then you could be chasing. So personally, I would stay away from this name, especially establishing a new long. If you're already long and you didn't realize any gains at this point, you may want to at least put a trailing stop loss or realize some level of a gain at this point, because this is a hard push. Again, this is a 77% markup from pre-ER, so it's a pretty solid move, and you don't want to lie to yourself and not take any profit off of a move like that. 2 more stocks for you. This next one is TMDX. This is Transmedics Group. This is a company that is a medical technology company that's transforming organ transplant therapy for patients with end-stage lung, heart, and liver failure. So very interesting company in that regard, especially anything that is operating with, or making it more efficient, I should say, with organ transplants in general. Big market there if you don't know, and if this company can make that better, that is interesting, and it's a good name for the heat check for that reason, because it's like I said, an interesting market. Apparently it also provides trained organ procurement surgeons, clinical specialists, and transplant coordinators that provide end-to-end clinical solution. That's really interesting to me. So sometimes these people get organ transplants and they don't necessarily get proper therapeutic care afterwards. So this is looking like kind of like a full service company, I want to say, for organ transplants, which is peculiar. That's very interesting to me. I don't want to cheap out on you guys and say I would like to learn more about this before saying, but definitely would like to learn more about this one before establishing too much of an opinion here. This is a $4 billion company, so a pretty decent sized company here. Looking at the daily chart right now, looks like we gapped up on their earnings. Looking like they're making money, so they have revenue. It's good. Gapped up on their earnings, pushing up. They're above their 200 MA here. Now, from a technical perspective, let's zoom out a little bit. Nice little base formed here. And so this is what's called an island bottom. You could argue this is an island bottom. So when you have a gap down and you form price action, and then you have a gap up, that's an island bottom. Assuming gaps weren't filled. It's almost the exact same place. Wow. That's typically a very bullish reversal, an island bottom. So this one could have a very justified run to the upside here. Now you're obviously leaving basically a double gap behind, a gap down here and a gap here. But those island bottoms tend to be very harsh reversals to the upside, which you're already seeing here. Marking up about, well, if you consider the gap up portion, that sounded southern for some reason, about $30-40 here to the upside since ER, which is pretty solid. About $90 before their earnings, now at $130, so over 30% gain. Pretty good. If I like this company, I like it. Watch this high here. So this yesterday's high, 131.27, and then this high here prior to the gap down. That's going to be a key level, 134.21. I'll put a little line here as well. 134.21. There you go. That's going to be a key level to keep an eye on. If I'm a bull, so this point in time, if I wanted to establish a new bullish position, I'd want to wait for a confirmation above that. getting above that leads us into this area where there was a lot of consolidation. But we will more than likely break over this line and consolidate there for a bit. And at that point, if we zoom all the way out, you're going to have a kind of like a funky double bottom thing going on there. Now, to be fair, never mind. I'll erase that. I was going to say something about the formation on this weekly chart, but it's actually not that bad. I would wait. There is just as likely of a scenario to come back down and roughly test this like 114-ish area. So two ways I'd play this. One, I'd wait for 114 to 109-ish to either establish a long with a tight stop to protect the gap here. And again, this is an island bottom, so it should hold, depending on volume. Or wait for a break of 134.21 and a back test, and as that level holds, establish a new long there. Wouldn't necessarily look to short this stock based on its price action. It wouldn't be a favorable short, in my opinion. So I would look for longs in those two scenarios. But definitely an interesting company. Thank you for putting this on my radar, Martin. It's something I'm going to take a look at after the show. It's it's a field that I've interest in, so it's something that I might actually want exposure in this kind of company. Last name on the heat check today is MCTR, and I pulled this one from StockTwits. This was $5 2 days ago, and it's now $46. It is now a 600 or almost a $700 million market cap company, which means it was 70 million as of 2 days ago, or somewhere in that area. I know nothing about this company. It's a holding company engaged in marketing and advertising services. One-stop advertising solutions. Blah, blah, blah. This company mainly provides the services to mobile game application developers. Okay, the other thing I learned is that this is a Chinese company. One thing you don't know about me, I hate Chinese companies. I think 95% of them are scams in one way or the other. And I think mainly because of their accounting practices, you can't really trust what they say. They report certain things, and this also applies to Bull, by the way. They can report certain things on their earnings and then just kind of like change it. If you've been around long enough, it's not even long enough, it's maybe like 2 years ago. Remember Luckin? I think it was Luckin Coffee. This stock was like a $500 stock, and their financials were great, and then they just came out like, yeah, everything's a lie, like they have no money, whatever. The stock went to like $1 the next day. I think it was Luckin Coffee. Okay, now I'm going to look it up to make sure. I think it's Lukin Coffee. This is a great example, though. Yeah, it's on the OTC market now. On the OTC market, it's LKNCY. But that's got to be after... Anyway, I digress. Check out that story. You'll Google that. You'll find out about it. But anyway, so these are daily charts, by the way. Quite a move. Let's zoom in a little bit here to get some sort of idea. This is the 30-minute chart. I mean, I'm going to need more data here in general. And no one requested this name. This is a name that I just picked out of a hat that was trending on StockTwits. I can see why it's trending on StockTwits because it's just pumping. Not a name I would touch. If you saw this on StockTwits, you probably should stay away. Let's read what people on StockTwits are saying. This is probably why you shouldn't use a platform like that to trade. Number 4 trending. It's already up, like I said, ridiculous 44% on the day since 2 days ago. Do a quick little 887%. Okay, so do you think you should long a company that is up 887%? I'm gonna go ahead and reach out on a limb, and even if you've been investing for 5 minutes, probably go no. I love this. I people are pushing for $500 a share. That is interesting. These are the people who have already owned. So just so a little lesson if you're a newer trader. The people who have owned at $5 right now have more than likely sold some of their position, if not all, and are now partying that it is all the way up here, and they want you to buy more so they could sell more. So this company has no information on it that I could find. It's not that popular. It's just popular in StockTwits. Big markup. Chinese company. Red flags all around on the play. Would not touch it all. Also wouldn't short. I don't even know if there's no options. I wouldn't short equity on this name with it being such a light market cap company either. Do not touch MCTR. I think you're going to have a very regrettable mistake if you do. I wouldn't even touch it as a momentum play because it's in advertising and marketing, which is already a little gray, plus it being a Chinese company and plus being up 800%. Stay away. That would be my stark suggestion for you to consider. So that's going to be the heat check for the day, guys. Hopefully you found that helpful, and we talked through some hyped up names, some exciting names, and maybe you found a new name for you to look into.